The People's Platform.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. Now, the Sri Lanka-US Fulbright Commission was established by an agreement signed by the two governments in 1952 as an autonomous, binational, non-governmental organization promoting mutual understanding through academic, cultural and professional exchanges with over 2,000 alumni working at the highest levels across universities, business, government, NGOs and artistic organizations. My guest tonight brings in extensive professional experience to Sri Lankan American academic exchanges with over 3 decades in academia, consulting, business and government, operating in a role that is instrumental in creating new opportunities to further Fulbright Sri Lanka's mission to ensure that it empowers future leaders and underrepresented groups in higher education. I'm most pleased to welcome to the show Executive Director at the Fulbright Commission, Dr. Patrick McNamara. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sonali. It's a great honor and a privilege to be here on your show.
Patrick, you've been holding this position as Executive Director since January.
Correct.
What do you think are some of the most significant challenges and opportunities facing international education programs such as the Fulbright in today's rapidly changing environment?
I think there's a few different dynamics that are changing in the international education world. One is that there are so many more players. It used to be that actually the United States was among the destination places. Now you have, UK, Germany, Australia, China, a lot of different options for students who want to go abroad. And I think that's actually a good thing. I think more quality education across the world is a great thing. So that's one of the changing dynamics. Mm-hmm. A second changing dynamic, I think, is that some of the internal dynamics of the United States have also changed. So you see the universities changing. I think one thing that I've been particularly interested in is the growth of community colleges. Right. These are 2-year, more vocational-focused education opportunities. And I think that there's a place for that across the world as well. So those are a couple of changing dynamics that I think are actually challenges but also opportunities for international education.
Some of the Fulbright scholars I know are such fabulous individuals. So if properly curated, collaboration and partnerships can result in the most brilliant synergy. Speak to us about examples of such brilliant synergy.
Yes. Well, we have, as you said in the intro, 2,000 alumni. Mm-hmm. And that is both Americans coming here to Sri Lanka sure. and Sri Lankans going to the United States, mm-hmm. either for formal education or maybe to do a particular research project. I think that they then become ambassadors for each other. Right. And that has been, I think, one of the most exciting things. Just last week, a woman in her probably mid-20s came in to the Fulbright office, and she shared her personal story with me, which I was really touched by. She said that when she was in high school, she did not have a vision of going abroad. She didn't think that she was going to be able to. She came from a poor family. She didn't have the means. She didn't even think about that. But being in the Fulbright office, she was all of a sudden surrounded by these young people who believed in her and staff at the Fulbright office that believed in her. Mm-hmm. She ended up applying for and was accepted at, first it was the University of Dallas, and now she's in a PhD program in Notre Dame University. And she was such an inspiration for me to think her father actually sold their family home in order to pay for the first year of her education abroad. After that, she didn't know how she was going to pay for the second year. She said, I got a job on the campus and was starting to work and able to pay for. The third year, she didn't know how she was going to do it. I guess a rich family in Dallas ended up sponsoring her and saying, this is a loan, pay it back whenever you can. Well, her dream was to go get her PhD, and her father believed in her dream. She was accepted at Notre Dame, and the next month, he died, tragically. And that story touched me because I know that a father's love for his daughter, I have two daughters, goes so deep. And to see your daughter succeeding in that way must have been an incredible success story for him and his family, as well as for her. Now she's about to defend her dissertation for her PhD at Notre Dame.
Okay. So socioeconomic hardship,
yes,
and a lack of awareness about opportunities, these are some of the key issues that keep people away from realizing their fullest potential, from realizing magic.
True.
So how does the Fulbright Commission come in?
I think there's a long history of believing in people who might not otherwise have that dream. But I also have to admit that there are some who have an impression of the Fulbright program, that this is a Colombo 7 sort of a thing, that this is the elite of Sri Lanka, that it's mostly Western province, from the big universities. And so in my first 3 months here in Sri Lanka in this job, I've been to Sri Lanka 3 times before, I can tell you more about that, but that I really have made a commitment to get out of Colombo. And this isn't just me, this is really the board of directors, a binational board, 3 appointed by the Sri Lankan government, 3 appointed by the US government every year. They really want us to get out into the provinces. So our first outreach was to the eastern province, Batticaloa, Trincomalee, Ampara. Our second was to the northern province, Kilinochchi to Jaffna, and Vovnia, and that set a tone that we are not just about the elite, that we are really wanting to build those relationships of trust and awareness, because if we don't have people applying from across this island, then of course we're not going to have ultimately the scholars and students from across the island. So I think we are really making a very concerted effort and a commitment to get out and to begin to build some relationships of trust with underserved communities across this island.
Okay, fantastic. In light of the emerging trends in education, technology, international relations, how do you think the Fulbright program is evolving and has evolved?
Yes, well, there are particular focus areas that I think evolve based on the binational commission. So, looking at both sides of the Fulbright program, what are the priorities for the government of Sri Lanka? What are the priorities for the government of the U.S.? And given that, how can we begin to build some exchanges around those particular priorities? And that actually is one thing that is articulated on the Fulbright website.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, these are increasingly important considerations in education and international exchange. How do these principles feature in the Fulbright programs?
Well, there are Fulbrighters who are specifically focused on some of these areas of diversity and inclusion. I also think that it is about who we reach out to. As I said before, some of the underserved areas of Sri Lanka are, I think, where we're trying to build some of those, and that begins to build the diversity and inclusion as well. There's also, at least in some places, a language barrier, because you have to have a certain level of English in order to do a Fulbright. So one of the things that we're committed to is providing some extra opportunities for those who might not have gone to English medium schools. And so how do you, get their TOEFL scores up to the point where they are admitted into some of the, American colleges? How do we, get, even coming the other direction, some of the American scholars to have at least a basic, Sinhala or Tamil, whatever community they're working in. So I think that diversity and inclusion really goes both ways. How we're doing that is an evolving answer, but we are very committed to that.
I'm in conversation with Dr. Patrick McNamara. We're going for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
People's Platform.
Shakti Crowd.
Shakti Crowd.
Every Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Tune in to Shakti TV.
Singharaja, Sri Lanka's precious world heritage.
පූජා කියන්නේ ලේසියෙන් දල කඩන්න පුළුවන් හැපින්නක් නෙමෙයි.
තල කඩලත් නවත්තන්න බැරි නම්
මට ලොකු සැකයක් තියෙනවා මේ හැම දෙයක් පිටිපස්සෙම ඉන්න පූජකයා. එයා පුරුවට අහිංසක විදිහට වායිසා රඟපානවා.
අපේ පූජාව අල්ලන්න හිතාගෙන කුරුළු මෙහෙම දෙයක් කරා වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
කුරුළු නම් අභිමන්ගේ කඩේට ගෙන තිබ්බේ කුරුළු මම්මට කවදාවත් සමාවක් දෙන්නේ නැහැ.
කුරුළු අභිමන්ට ආදරේ ඇති මංක නැහැ කියලා කියන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි මට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ ආදරේ කියලා ඔය වගේ පරිගන්න පුළුවන් මිනිස්සු.
Neela Pabalu. Ada Ratri Naveta. Sirasa Telithirain.
You know, if you are saying that someone conspired to get rid of you as president or whatever, you must have the hard evidence. The idea of putting this particular individual as chairman of this committee may well be to satisfy the SLPP or whatever. Need to know what these pieces of legislation are and how it impacts on their lives.
I would say we have no preference. We are ready for any election.
Because the Pohuttu fellows know that they can't stay with the Pohuttu anymore because of what happened. We are a political party who listens to professionals and academics who know the subject.
That being said, he is still a mandateless leader.
Right.
I would have said that whoever assumed duties,
95% of their, income are going for the lease of the aircraft.
The government is trying to introduce, let's say, 40 new or 40 amended laws. That doesn't mean that we are developing in that area.
TV1. TV for life.
Minister Vijaydas Rajapaksa also invited to the presidential race. No such invitation and decision yet to be reached on the candidate. SLFP responds. UNP extends invitation to 4 SJB members. No one will join the UNP. Chandima responds. President walks along the Pico Trail. Explore opportunities for the revival of the tourism industry. Israel and Iran issue warnings against each other.
TV1. TV for life. The People's Platform.
Welcome back. I'm in conversation with the Executive Director of the Fulbright Commission, Dr. Patrick McNamara. Patrick, one of the key areas of focus of the Fulbright Commission is to ensure that people-to-people relationships are fostered in a meaningful manner. Take us through how this happens.
That's right, Sonali. We have at our core mission is building bridges of understanding and peace between the people of the United States and the people of Sri Lanka through educational, artistic, and professional exchanges. It's really building those bridges of understanding and peace through people-to-people contact. Many times, I think, you might have a stereotype or an impression of, with the people in a particular place. In the United States, there are certainly impressions, and sometimes going there and meeting people from the United States dispels some of those myths. Likewise, coming here to Sri Lanka might dispel a lot of myths for people. I first came to Sri Lanka in 1991, and it was a very different Sri Lanka. It was a challenging time, as you might know. I know you were maybe just very young at that time, but I saw Sri Lanka through the eyes of a young, idealistic traveler, and I fell in love with this country. And I fell in love with the people and the culture and the diversity. And I thought to myself, if I could ever come back there, that would be a dream come true. Well, I did come back twice since then, and now I've come back for the rest of my life. The impressions that one has coming into Sri Lanka, I think, are, I'm just speaking openly here, that, when I told my students in University of Nebraska in Omaha that I was coming to Sri Lanka, they said, how can you go there? That's a terrorist place. Aren't you scared? Dr. Patrick, how are you going to live there? And I said, no, actually, there are more people that die of gun violence in America than die of all homicides of any kind in Sri Lanka. So it is actually a safer place that I'm going. And that's one impression that I think you come here and you realize that, yes, there is a challenging history. I understand that. But the people are so kind and welcoming, so generous and hospitable. It is a great place. And when you begin to build those people-to-people relations, that's when I think true understanding and peace happens.
We're living in a world that is plagued by misinformation, disinformation, xenophobia, hate and hurt. What is the role of education and cultural exchange in creating more humane spaces that are inclusive and that focus on human dignity and kindness?
Yes. Well, as you know, as a human rights lawyer, that is, I think, really important that we dispel the myths, that we don't buy into all the different disinformation that we are fed. We're there on social media, and we're getting algorithms that are feeding us whatever rabbit hole we're going down there. When we get out from behind the screens and begin to build true relationships, that's when I think people begin to understand, I am different, but I also share some of the same values. I also have, some of the same dreams. I have some of the same hopes. That connection then becomes deeper, and no longer is it, the evil empire of America or the, terrorist history of Sri Lanka, but it's just Patrick and Sonali sitting here and having a conversation and enjoying that deeper truth that we're beginning to discover when we can get through all of the disinformation and really build a human connection.
Beyond the Fulbright exchanges, what else does the Fulbright Commission do?
Yes. A number of things. One of them is we run some different programs. One is called the Humphrey Fellowship. Humphreys are mid-level professionals who are working on some major issue within their countries, and they are then sent to the United States, and through a cohort for about 9 months, they take a deep dive into that issue. In fact, the group director here, Sivan, is one of the Humphrey alumni, and he really focused on media and media relations. Another one of our board members, Ravi Diaz, was a banker, and he took a deep dive into banking and ended up, the trajectory of his career took off. And He was the CEO of Commercial Bank and is now the chairman of Ceylon Bank. And so you see these people who have come through the Humphrey program and are now really highly placed professionals. That, I think, is a great success. Another program is the T program. T is for teachers in government schools who are serving underserved areas.
Right.
And they're sent for a short program, 6 weeks, and they take a deep dive into pedagogy, teaching skills, and especially using technology in the classroom. Then they come back and they continue to serve in those government schools. This T program is something that I think has a great impact on Sri Lanka and other countries around the world. So those are two other examples of programs that we run.
Patrick, your PhD is in public administration.
Yes.
When you observe the manner in which states are run and the overarching duty of states to act in the best interests of the citizens, to act in the most humane manner, what aspects of governance do you think these states are missing out on?
Well, I want to first say that the Fulbright Commission is a non-political NGO, so we're not getting into the politics of,
Sure.
and so saying above politics, I will say that I have taught many different courses on good governance and done trainings for public administrators on good governance, ethical leadership, and that is really at the core. Rule of law and really having policies and procedures that are going to ensure that not only is the public served, but also international investors who are waiting in the wings and maybe looking and saying, is that a place that I want to invest? Because I have this capital. I could do that anywhere in the world. Is that a place that I want to invest? Do I trust that that's going to be the safe and profitable investment? So I think that good governance is really at the heart of not only serving the people, but also the economic development in the longer run, and ultimately, back to the Fulbright Commission, education, which is really at the heart of good citizenship, I think. I believe that education is the key to democracy. And if we don't have an educated citizenry, then democracy is going to die. And I hope that what Fulbright is doing, even in a small way, is continuing, not only here in Sri Lanka, not only in the United States, but across the world, to really grow democracy.
You also have a master's degree in conflict resolution.
Yes, I do.
What are your perspectives on mainstreaming peace education? It's almost an obsolete academic discipline that doesn't really have a place in real life.
Oh, I hate to hear you say that, but I do think peace education, and I do think that conflict resolution skills are essential to life. I use my conflict resolution skills every day, not only in my job, but in the rest of my life as well, in my family, in my community, in my place of worship, all these places that conflict resolution skills are important. I believe that peace education starts with an inner look. And if we are feeling such great inner conflict, such great angst within us, it is very hard to be effective in whatever it is that we're asked to do, whether that's being a student, being a parent, being a TV journalist, being a Fulbright Commission director, whatever it is. We need to have at least some inner journey that's taking us into projecting a piece into the world around us. Because if we are projecting conflict everywhere into the world around us, then that is just creating a more conflictual workplace, a more conflictual education space, a more conflictual TV studio, wherever we are. I feel, even though, I'm sure you have some hard-hitting questions, you also have a mannerism about you that is very inviting and has, a connectivity about it. That's probably why you're doing the journalism that you're doing, right? That you're projecting an inner peace and inner strength as you are connecting with people. And I have seen many journalists who come at you and that's a different energy that you're putting out into the world. So peace education is not obsolete. Peace education starts with who we are, and then we can learn some skills that can make this world a better, more peaceful, more understanding place.
Thank you for that comment. I appreciate it very much. My final question to you, multi-stakeholder discourse, multi-sectoral dialogue is so important for us to make key decisions which are inclusive and participatory. How do you plan to engage with stakeholders, including government agencies, academic institutions, and civil society organizations, both in Sri Lanka and the United States, to maximize the impact of the Fulbright?
That's a great question, and I do think that is really the vision, to have multi-stakeholders all buying into the Fulbright mission. How we do that, I think we're still kind of figuring that out. We do have a history of some of that engagement, but I think one of the ways is to up our game on alumni engagement. So we have alumni in all different sectors. And I think if we can find ways to connect the dots with our alumni, and I'm not just talking about Sri Lankan alumni, I'm also talking about American alumni. If we can begin to connect the dots and build a stronger alumni network, that will then result in greater multi-sector, multi-stakeholder cooperation and collaboration. I mean, my hope, because it's my job, is that will ultimately benefit the Fulbright Commission here in Sri Lanka. But even beyond that, it's hopefully going to also, again, back to our mission, build bridges of understanding and peace between people of the United States and people of Sri Lanka. And that, I think, is ultimately what we hope to do.
Dr. Patrick McNamara, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your perspectives.
Thank you, Sonali. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.